I'm Jeff Diamond, Contest Chair for the Religion News Association. Welcome to my basement. More importantly, welcome to the 71st Annual RNA Awards ceremony. Please hold your applause. Please hold your applause because we have a lot to get through tonight. In a typical year, we all meet in person for this and also for our entire conference, and we always have a great time together. We all know why we can't do that tonight. Still, thanks to video, we are very fortunate to be able to publicly recognize so much of your great work, and I'm very honored to be able to give out these awards. This has been another excellent year for religion journalism, as you will see from the judges' comments soon to be posted on your screen. Religion reporters and journalists keep writing and producing stories with great impact, stories that shed light on important religion angles of politics, war, culture, disease, and other topics that make their way onto the front pages of newspapers and websites, the covers of magazines, and feature prominently on TV, radio, and podcasts. I strongly encourage you to check out the winner's best stories on the web. A small but important addition this year, I want to take time to honor the people watching here who did not win any awards. Many of our judges this year volunteered that in all their years of judging for RNA, they had never before been faced with so many tough decisions. So many great entries that deserve to be recognized, but that we simply did not have enough awards for. So I'd like to start with a moment to recognize those of you who did not win any awards tonight, but who did great work. Come on, you know who you are. Also, given that our current phase of life seems to have lasted forever, it seems worth noting that the awards tonight honor work that was done in 2019, way back before the coronavirus entered our vocabularies. So it's time now to start honoring our contest winners. We have 21 contests in total. For each one, I'll tell you the names of the winners and a little bit about their work, and we will see excerpts of judges' comments on the screen for each of them. We are very lucky that many of the winners have submitted video acceptance speeches, which we'll have the pleasure of seeing and hearing after their names and comments are displayed. Our first contest is for a Lifetime Achievement Award. I will now introduce Manya Bashir Pashman to give out this special award.
If you seek out ritual moments or teaching moments in the course of your religion reporting, then you probably learned how to cover religion from Ari Goldman. Ari is a longtime RNA member and a regular at RNA conferences, first as a religion reporter at the New York Times, and now as a professor of journalism and teacher of religion reporting at Columbia University's School of Journalism. Now, those of us who have planned RNA conferences know that if you want Ari to attend your program, you don't plan it for Friday night or Saturday. That's because we all know that Ari is Shomer Shabbos. He is a modern Orthodox Jewish journalist who has maintained his Sabbath observance even as a daily journalist for the Times, and it's a level of commitment we have all admired and watched in awe over the years. Now, you're not supposed to pick a school or a job based solely on one person, because who knows how long that person may stick around. But I broke that rule in 2001 when I took a tour of Columbia University's campus. I was in search of a program that combined religion and journalism training, and everyone had pointed me to Ari Goldman. So I went and knocked on his office door, and the moment he stepped out into the hallway, I knew I had met the man who was going to be my mentor. He had this amazing gift to get people to open up, to trust him, to relate, and I really wanted to learn how to emulate that. And so I applied, and I studied for 2 years with Ari. He taught me so much more than religion reporting. If you read the written tribute about Ari and this award, you see that he talks a lot about the Talmud as his personal and professional guide. He sees it as a model of journalism, the great discussion, the many sides of every story, of every subject. But he also used it to teach me writing. You see, when he saw the notebook dump that was the first draft of my master's project, he whipped out that Talmud and used it as a model for how to organize my thoughts. It was brilliant. and it's a model I have relied on for years and have shared with my own journalism students. I have also required some of my students to read Ari's first book, The Search for God at Harvard. It is required reading for all of RNA membership, I hereby declare. It really should be. It's a wonderful book. But it was another book that I pulled off my shelf last year when my father passed away. Living a Year of Kaddish is Ari's third book, and it's about coping with the loss of his own father with Jewish tradition. It was an inspiration. For his insightful and inspirational journalism, for his amazing ability to transmit his skills to hundreds of students, some of whom have gone on to cover religion around the world, for helping to shape RNA's membership for a generation. It is the honor of a lifetime to introduce the recipient of this year's William A. Reed Lifetime Achievement Award, Ari Goldman. Mazel tov.
Hi, everyone. I'm recording this from our summer cabin on a lake in the Catskill Mountains in upstate New York. Shira and I moved here in June from our New York City apartment. It's been a good place to ride out some of the worst days of the pandemic. I'm here, but I wish I could be with you. I love RNA conventions. What a great place for me to see friends and colleagues and former students. Shira and I often make a little vacation out of it. Thank you so much for this honor. I'm very moved to be the recipient of this award. I especially want to thank my wife Shira for her love and for her support of my career over the years. We have the most wonderful children, Adam and Anna, Emma and Michael, Judah and Rafi, and I want to thank them too for helping me get to this moment. This is not something I ever planned, so let me tell you how I got here. When I was a young reporter, I had a dream. This might surprise you, but it wasn't to be a religion writer. I wanted to be a foreign correspondent. Now, this was not an unrealistic aspiration. At the time, I was a young reporter on Metro at the New York Times. And the New York Times had a dozen bureaus around the United States and even more overseas. Here's what a career might look like. Metro, Albany, Philadelphia, Atlanta, Houston, Nairobi, Mumbai, London, Paris. I was on Metro and dreamed of living and traveling abroad. Now, don't get me wrong, I had great beats on Metro. Education, transportation, politics. I even covered 2 sessions of the state legislature in Albany. But I wanted to go abroad. In 1983, I got my chance. There was an opening in the Nairobi Bureau of the Times, and I was given a tryout. My tryout consisted of a trip to Africa to cover a massacre between 2 tribes in Zimbabwe. This was so long ago that it was called Zimbabwe Rhodesia. It was still in transition from white to black rule. Robert Mugabe was a young man. Imagine that. This was not an easy assignment. On top of that, I had just gotten married, and Shira was pregnant with our first child, and she stayed behind in New York. Life on the road was a lot harder and less glamorous than I had imagined. Still, I did my best, wrote some good stories, but ultimately I did not get the Nairobi job. I came back to Metro, my old beat. My dream of being a foreign correspondent pretty much gone. One day, I ran into the great Ken Briggs in the newsroom. Ken was the Times' religion editor, and he was a friend and a mentor to me. He told me there was an opening on the religion desk. I applied and got it. I thought my travel days were over, but soon I started to go to D.C. to cover the Catholic bishops, and to various cities in the South and Midwest to cover the Baptists and the Methodists, and even the rabbis, who back then met all over the place. In those days, the Times took its mission as the newspaper of record seriously and covered many of these denominational meetings. And I got involved in RNA and started going to conventions in New Orleans, in Salt Lake City, in Las Vegas, in Nashville. quite unexpectedly, religion writing turned out to be my ticket to travel the country. After a few years, I left the Times and started teaching at Columbia. In 1994, I initiated a course called Covering Religion. Little did I know, but my travel days were only beginning. Again, RNA was instrumental. In 2000, the Vatican announced that John Paul II was making a pilgrimage to the Holy Land. RNA organized a journalism trip to cover the Pope. This was organized by Gunther Lawrence. Some of you may remember him. He was a PR guy who did a lot of volunteer work for RNA. I piggybacked on that RNA trip thanks to the Scripps Howard Foundation. The foundation supported my taking 16 students to Israel and Jordan to cover the Pope, along with the RNA professionals. That trip was so successful, the foundation kept funding me. For the last 20 years, my Covering Religion class has traveled each spring. We started with Israel and Jordan and then branched out. We've been to Russia, Ukraine, Ireland, Northern Ireland, Italy, and India. Along the way, we got to cover 3 popes up close, JP2, Benedict, and Francis. Would you believe that my class covered Francis's installation Mass in St. Peter's Square? We ran into a lot of RNA friends there too. Many of today's RNA members and leaders are veterans of these trips, including Manya Bashir, Nicole Nerulius, and Dan Burke. Of course, not all my religion students went on to careers as religion writers, but they did go on to cover many other beats at news organizations around the world. And I'm proud to say they all know how to cover a religion story the right way. And I should add, some of my Columbia students did not take my Covering Religion course, but they got the bug anyway. Kimberly Winston was one of my students, as was Yonat Shimron. They too are at the top of the field. What do I teach in Covering Religion? Why does it need a special course? Every year, for the last 20 years, I've started with the same writing exercise. It's called the ritual moment. I ask students to bring a ritual to life. Make it transcendent, I tell them. A ritual moment. That is one of the things that makes a religion story different from all others. A good religion story must have a transcendent moment. Likewise, a good acceptance speech for an RNA award, especially a Lifetime Achievement Award, deserves a ritual moment. So join me in this ritual. Reach out a hand toward your screen, toward me, and I will reach out to you. Imagine us, all of us, touching. Imagine us, all of us, in one place and not scattered around the country. Imagine us living without the threat of coronavirus. Imagine us free to travel, to shake hands, to hug, and to embrace. If we reach out our hands and our hearts, we can grasp each other and make it through this difficult time together as a community of friends and colleagues. I thank you so much for this honor. I've been an RNA member for more than 30 years, and this is my first RNA award. I've been a finalist, but never, until today, a winner. Good things come to those who wait. I pray that next year we are all together in one place, safe and healthy, and with this pandemic behind us, and that we will be free to shake hands and embrace and hug. At that time, I will accept your congratulations in person, but for now, let me say that this is pretty damn sweet. It was worth the work and the wait. You are wonderful colleagues and friends, and I cannot wait to see you next year in person. Thank you.
Namaste from Delhi, India, and Mazel Tov to Professor Goldman. Ari, I so wish we could all be there to celebrate with you. Rain check, monsoon check. All those lessons about ritual moments and teaching moments from your Covering Religion course meant so much to me. I've shared those with students and with writers in the States and in India over the years. Thank you for inspiring me for my career as a religion reporter through the RNS Board of Managers as well. I wanted to let you know that I have very few books, very little space for books here in India, but this one has made the cut. So you're with me. Thank you so much. Congratulations. Best wishes to you and your family.
Ari Goldman was not just a great religion reporter and a wise teacher. He's also a genuinely caring human being. I was a student of his at Columbia, and I was always struck by how genuinely he regarded his students. He treated me, a novice, very respectfully, almost like I was a professional peer, even though I wasn't. And it boosted my confidence, and it made me want to try harder. I'm so thrilled to hear that he's winning this recognition. I think it's so well-deserved, and it's frankly overdue.
Being part of Professor Goldman's religion reporting class in 2013, having the chance to travel to Rome to cover the inauguration of Pope Francis was one of the most memorable experiences of my life. Professor Goldman taught us the importance of covering people in a way that they would recognize themselves in the reporting, and to never be a tourist in other people's cultures or religions. Thank you, Professor Goldman, for all of your lessons, and congratulations on a truly well-deserved honor.
Hi, Ari. It's Kimberly Winston. How are you? Congratulations on getting this Lifetime Achievement Award. It's well-deserved. So, in thinking about what to say, I went back through my RW1 file. I still have an RW1 file. I was convinced I'd find my stories, but I didn't. Instead, I found these wonderful stories of yours. These will be a blast from the past. Look at that. For funerals, a female touch. More women undertakers. For immigrants, a 4-language church. I have tons of these. Here's one. In the days of printouts. Midtown Journal of Friars, Buddhists, and Bowls of Cornflakes by Ari Goldman. You know, Manya asked me to say, tell a cool story about Ari. Well, my cool story is this. I thank my lucky stars that on the first day of journalism school, I got you for my RW1 teacher, because you never doubted me, at least not out loud, at a time when I was tremendously doubting myself. And I think if I hadn't had you as my RW1 teacher, I think I might have quit. I kept waiting to be found out as an imposter. And you always encouraged me. You always made me believe that I deserved to see my name in print. And the other thing that I really, really loved about you was that didn't stop after graduation. You were always there for me after graduation, which is why 20 years after I met you, I still consider you a mentor and a friend. And I'm just as happy as hell that you're getting this award. And I wish you all the best. I'm so sorry we can't be there to do this in person. Best of luck. Well deserved.
I grew up Jewish in the Baptist South, so there wasn't a whole lot of understanding about different religious traditions. Then Scripps Howard introduced me to Russia.
I remember we touched down in Tel Aviv. My year we went to Israel.
When I was a student in the class, we went to India. It was a very difficult trip, I think, emotionally for a lot of people. People were reevaluating their own beliefs and their own approaches to journalism in a way that I just have never really seen anything like this.
The world is changing, America is changing. Just understanding one way of life does not equip you for being a reporter today. Giving my students these tools to understand diversity and to write about religion in a sensitive way, I am preparing them to write about life. It's not that religion is here and life is there, but they connect. And that if you could see the religious dimensions in stories of everyday life, you can tell stories about America and about the world in a better way, in a smarter way.
The covering religion class was completely unique in that it took us out of the classroom. The class itself was divided into two parts, where the first part, we went into New York City's 5 boroughs and we looked at faith traditions there and we came back and reported on them. And that really helped inform what we did in the second part of the class, which was going to India and be on the ground talking to people and break down so many misconceptions.
It wasn't just, me studying under Ari and traveling with Ari, but it was this whole newsroom that we built up.
Each student had their particular beat. My beat was the Salvation Army and the Jehovah's Witnesses. Both groups, religious traditions that were persecuted in Russia and were having a really hard time kind of re-emerging after the 80 years of communism.
So when I was in India, I worked with my colleague Nicole Einbinder. We wrote on a group of Hindu Dalit individuals who had converted to Buddhism. And that story actually got picked up by the Religion News Service.
I learned a lot about how to approach people, to have that sort of very human connection. At the same time, you have a question to ask. And so juggling that is, I think, a crucial skill for all journalism.
Religion is a lens through which people see the world and through which they make decisions that affect all of us. A good journalist is going to understand what those decision-making factors are and what part they play in the larger story.
Ari not only shared experiences from his own days in the newsroom, he also brought in journalists from New York City and beyond to share their experiences, and it showed students that an understanding of religion can actually be very beneficial when you're covering other beats as well.
And it really sealed for all of us personally, I think, the importance of religion journalism.
I find that I am incorporating more and more of that into my own filmmaking, even when the subject is not explicitly religious. And I'm currently working on a show called Death Row Stories for CNN.
For the past 2 years, I've been on the breaking news desk at CNN, and this is probably the class that I use the most often in my day-to-day reporting.
We're very lucky to have been beneficiaries of the Scripps Howard Foundation because they were so supportive of educating young religion journalists.
Hundreds of students have gone through the program at Columbia and learned this valuable lesson and are scattered across the country and quite literally around the world in newsrooms, making documentaries and writing books and working for daily newspapers. Without their support, never would have traveled to Russia, might not have chosen Columbia, and I think both of those experiences have been life-altering.
Our next award is the Chandler Contest for Student Journalists. To give out this award, I want to introduce Deborah Caldwell, the publisher of Religion News Service.
Hi. This award honors people who aren't yet journalists, but whom we hope will someday soon join us. They are students at universities who've done superior work at their school papers and other media outlets. Their work is honored in a special award called the Chandler Award, named for Russell and M.L. Chandler. Third place goes to Diana Kruzman of New York University, who was praised by the judges for her work on religion in India, including a piece that showed the emotion and social costs facing Indians who flee persecution to come live in the United States, and another one on the economic threats to sacred groves across the forests of India. Second place goes to Megan Botel of the University of Southern California for her stories on the anguish of an Armenian mother whose son was refused a church funeral because he committed suicide, and for her podcast on a hallucinogenic tea called ayahuasca to deal with depression, anxiety, and addictions. And first place goes to Elizabeth Vandenboom of the King's College, who was praised for stories about how Jehovah's Witnesses have used American Sign Language, and her profile of the Buddhist influencer and daily haiku poet Tyler Knott Gregson. Congratulations to all three winners.
Our next prizes are for excellence in nonfiction religion books. Second prize goes to Stephen Waldman for his book Sacred Liberty, America's Long, Bloody, and Ongoing Struggle for Religion Freedoms, which describes the efforts of minority groups to obtain religious freedom in the United States from colonial times to the current era. Here's what the judges said. Every now and then we need a popular history to connect the dots between what we think we know about American religious history and what is really happening in American religion today. The second place winner, a bon vivant of American religion journalism, does exactly that and does it exceptionally well. This is a must-read for anyone new to the religion beat. First place goes to Duncan Ryukin Williams for American Sutra, a story of faith and freedom in the Second World War, which described the lives of Japanese-American Buddhists in U.S. internment camps during World War II.
Good evening. My name is Duncan Ryukin Williams, and I am happy to accept the Religion News Association's 2020 Best Book Award for American Sutra, a story of faith and freedom in the Second World War. It's a book about Buddhism and the World War II Japanese-American internment and incarceration. It's a book about how religion mattered, how it was a factor for why over 125,000 persons of Japanese ancestry were placed behind barbed wire camps in American internment and concentration camps during World War II. It's also a book about how Buddhism helped those internees survive and persist those difficult years. I'd like to thank my wife, Sun Young Lee, for her encouragement and support for the 17 years it took to write this book. I'd like to thank my extended family, Stephen Williams, Nigel Williams, Stae Ikuo Williams, Wakyang Lee, Honyong Lee, and Sonia Lee, for their visible as well as invisible support for this book. I'd like to dedicate the award to the Nagatomi family, in particular Professor Masatoshi Nagatomi of Harvard University and his wife, Masami Mary Nagatomi, whose stories were what inspired this book. Their experiences during World War II were ones where, as in the words in American Sutra, were stories about how faith in both Buddhism and America could contribute to a vision of a nation that values multiplicity over singularity, hybridity over purity, and inclusivity over exclusivity. Their stories constitute an American Sutra. Thus have I heard.
Our next prize is for excellence in news reporting at magazines and non-daily newspapers. Our third place winner is Brian Rowe of National Catholic Reporter for what judges called a thoughtful and well-reported package of stories that examines the intersection of Catholic doctrine and the Green New Deal. The judges said Brian, quote, shows how the climate change movement syncs with Catholicism's mission to protect society's poor and most vulnerable.
Hi RNA, greetings from Kansas City. Thank you so much for this award. It's a great honor, and congratulations to all the other winners this year. I want to thank especially all my editors and the copy desk at NCR for helping to bring these stories to print about how Catholics are engaging the reality of global climate change. All these stories were part of the lead up and launch of Earthbeat, NCR's special reporting project on faith and climate. So I want to give a special shout out and my appreciation to everyone who's been involved with Earthbeat from the beginning and getting off the ground. And especially I'm grateful for NCR for investing this type of time, resources, and finances to this kind of reporting about the environment from a faith perspective. So this award goes to the entire Earthbeat team. Thanks again.
Our second place award goes to Menachem Wecker for work done at Education Next and Mosaic Magazine, including an in-depth look at the debate over New York state guidelines that seek to ensure religious schools are providing equivalent secular education, and what judges called, quote, a meticulous study of how artists have used shorthand symbols and words to approximate using God's name in ways that circumvent religious prohibition.
I'm very grateful to my first-rate editors and to the contest judges for their reprehensible taste in this particular instance. Even when no pandemic rages without, being a freelancer can be a very isolating, precarious existence, a thorny and enwalled, pathless way, as Hosea 2 would put it. RNA makes this humbled independent writer feel consistently part of a larger community. That is a very special thing. Thank you.
First place goes to Brandon Ambrosino of Political Magazine for his portrait of Jerry Falwell Jr. The judge said, despite non-disclosure agreements and a staff fearful of speaking out, Mr. Ambrosino managed to amass a trove of financial documents, emails, and interviews with Falwell associates that depict a man who embraces a leadership model rife with cronyism, inappropriate political engagement, and possible sexual impropriety. It's a story that would not have been told without Ambrosino's persistence in an 8-month investigation into the insular world of the country's largest Christian college. Our next prize is for excellence in magazine overall religion coverage. The top prize here goes to Moment magazine. In choosing Moment, the judge cited the issue titled Truth. What is it? Does it matter? How do we find it? Which the judges said did a masterful job, quote, exploring both the pragmatic and philosophical quest for fact-finding and evidence in a world where lies and half-truths are gaining a foothold in political and public discourse. Moment comes at the issue from all sides during a critical time for our democracy. Our next prize is for short video. First place in this contest goes to Andrew Rush of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. The judges said that Andrew's video about the 1-year anniversary of the fatal shootings at Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, quote, captured the emotion, the sadness, fear, and desire to move on, but never forget what happened on this horrible day. The interviews were superb, the video fit perfectly, and was a wonderful piece of journalism. Our next contest is for excellence in radio. We have one winner in this category, Doug Fabrizio of Radio West WUER. The judges called Doug's work excellent, in-depth, and dynamic reporting with inclusive and humanizing narratives, with interesting and refreshing takes on topics we often hear about. Our next contest is for excellence in podcasting. Our second place winner is Sarah D'Elia of WFAE in Charlotte for her podcast on the Roman Catholic Diocese of Charlotte's release of the names of credibly accused priests. The judges said that her work constituted, quote, critical reporting that speaks truth to power, and praised her, quote, processing the analytics with the emotional context and the possibilities for its survivors in a powerful way. Our first place winner in this contest is Michael O'Loughlin of America Magazine for his 6-episode podcast titled Plague, Untold Stories of AIDS in the Catholic Church, which the judges praised for excellent reporting and dynamic storytelling so worth listening to, and for work that, quote, explores historical context combined with lived experiences, for providing accountability, and for challenging listeners to reflect on their own values.
Thanks, Religion News Association, for recognizing the hard work that went into making the podcast Plague. There was a big team behind the project at America Media, led expertly by producer Eloise Blondio and executive producer Sebastian Gomes. I look forward to telling more of the stories in a book based on the podcast due to be published next year. Looking forward to seeing everyone in person next year, and thanks again.
Our next contest is for excellence in documentary. Our winner in this contest are Gerald Krell and Adam Krell for their documentary entitled Guru Nanak, the founder of Sikhism, Life and Legacy. The judges said this was, quote, beautifully shot, beautifully told, and a powerful piece. It was obvious how much work went into producing this.
My son and filmmaking partner, Adam Krell, and I are privileged to receive the Religion News Association Award for Best Documentary for our Guru Nanak public television program.
We wish to thank Jeff Diamond, Board Contest Chair, and his committee for bestowing this award to us. And special thanks to Rajwan Singh, our executive producer, for his faith in our getting it right by arming ourselves with knowledge, a basic tenet of Sikhism.
Guru Nanak, the founder of Sikhism, whose message was one God, equality for all, gender empowerment, service to others, and devotion to the environment.
In today's world of nationalism, bullying, and interfaith misconceptions and stereotypes, Nanak's message is relevant to all people of all religions and races.
He is aptly called the Prince of Interfaith Understanding. We thank you for the honor.
Our next contest is for Excellence in Photography, Single Photo. Our first place winner is Stephanie Strasberg of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette for an image of girls from a Mennonite family that was excommunicated from its church for resisting authority of church leaders who had been dealing with a sex abuse crisis there. In the judge's words, the photographer presents a respectful portrait of these sisters navigating their way to truth and resilience despite the abuse and secrecy. Our next contest is for Excellence in Photography, Gallery. Our first place winner here is Mukhtar Khan of the Associated Press for pictures of Kashmiri Muslims in prayer at mosques and shrines, including a shrine that houses a relic believed to be a hair from the beard of the Prophet Muhammad. In the judge's words, quote, "Highest praise for this photographer and his collection of images for the AP. They said each image shows the photographer truly sees the moments in the chaos of covering big news."
Hello everyone. It's indeed a great honor to have been chosen from such a long list of finalists who come from different parts of the world, have produced some great work. I have lived and worked in Kashmir all my life, but past year have been experienced itself, beating all odds from going out to document what was happening and struggle to send it out for the world to see. I'm humble. Thank you, RNA.
The next contest is for Excellence in Television News Magazine Religion Reporting. Our first place winner here is Tony Carnes of A Journey Through New York City Religions for an episode interviewing the chief religion correspondent for the Fox News Channel. In the judge's words, the host did something so many TV hosts failed to do today. He allowed his guests to speak without constant and meaningless interruptions. He got out of the way and let his guests shine. Engaging, informative, made me think and want to discuss faith. Great TV. A real success.
Tell us a little bit about that December 8th first showing, which was one of our biggest challenges, right?
We had a wonderful program set up with this woman who had written a book about Archbishop Fulton Sheen. Everything is all set, and then about an hour before the show begins, is set to begin, or taping is set to begin, I get a call from her saying, "Sorry, I have laryngitis. I can't do the show."
And I was at Starbucks at the time.
And it's like, holy cow, what are we going to do now? And so then
Saturday morning, everybody doesn't want to get up early and to come to the studio.
Time is about to roll in about an hour. So, their person is canceled. So I give a call to Lauren Green, the religion correspondent for Fox News.
That's right.
Channel. I say, "Hey, Lauren, we'd love to have you on the show. Well, what do you think?" And she says, "Hey, yeah, sure. That sounds great, Brian. When would you like me to come?" I say, "Well, how about now?"
We thank our staff. We thank you. We thank our audience. And we thank our fellow journalists who have always been quick to help us.
Our next contest is Excellence in Television Local News Religion Reporting. Our winner here is a team of reporters from New York One, including Josh Robin, Zoe Slemons, Gina Wolfson, Andrea Marican, Pablo Bujosa, Sam Mark, Christine Cortez, Enrique Adonis, Sergio Rios, Jorge Olivares, Brianne Barry, Michael Zillman, and Pete Carrill. This team of reporters was praised for a segment titled, "How Do We Combat Hate in the Digital Age?" which included a conversation with a former neo-Nazi on what, if anything, should be done to curb hate speech in the digital realm. According to the judges, it was an in-depth examination of a serious problem in our country. It was impressive to see the issue covered from several sides. The interviews are right on point, the supporting video was excellent, and the entire piece was thought-provoking.
Thank you so much to the judges. Thanks so much to the team and to our bosses and managers at Spectrum News for giving us the opportunities and the resources to do this type of journalism. Thank you so much.
Our next contest is for Excellence in Religion Reporting in online-only news outlets. Our third place winner here is Saqib Rahim, a freelance journalist, for his work at SB Nation, Sports Blog Nation, specifically a piece about Sikh Heritage Night at a professional sports event including games hosted by the Sacramento Kings. The judges said Rahim's piece was a beautiful, entertaining write-up of a new and evolving tradition, which the writer used as a portal into a riveting history of Sikhs in the United States. Second place goes to Ruth Graham for work done at Slate. The judges said her 3-story entry showcased a wide range of top-notch reporting and writing that brings you wherever she is, in articles including an interview with Theodore McCarrick in a friary in Victoria, Kansas, the first he'd given since his downfall, as well as pieces on the campus pastor at Liberty University in Virginia, and on the messy aftermath of the publication of the book The Boy Who Came Back from Heaven, a one-time New York Times bestseller. First place goes to Paul Glatter of Religion Unplugged for his expose on a whistleblower's complaint on a $100 billion investment fund associated with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which raised questions over whether titles were used inappropriately. The judges noted that Glatter's work not only revealed the existence of the fund through the whistleblower's complaint, but interviewed a tax expert about ramifications of the fund's existence, smoothly combining a major scoop with an excellent explanatory report. Our next prize is for excellence in religion reporting at small newspapers, the Castles Contest. Our first prize winner here is Catherine Godby of the Decatur Daily. The judges said this winner stood out. Each adroitly layered story shared larger truth in its own separate unfolding. A judge and client, a man and his ministry, a coma patient and his community, and thoughtfully presented lives irrevocably entwined at the intersection of faith and life. True and inspiring stories of religion well told. The next contest is for excellence in religion reporting at mid-sized newspapers, the Cornell Contest. Our winner here is Danae King of the Columbus Dispatch for her stories on how the Diocese of Columbus, Ohio, has handled clergy sex abuse cases, and a look at how the new bishop has handled such cases in the past. The judges said these stories are an exceptional example of the importance and value of fundamental beat reporting, showing rigorous questioning, challenges to authority, and some fine data-based work. Well-written, balanced, thorough, and compelling.
Hi, I'm Danae King, and this is my first RNA Award, so I'm really excited to win this. Thank you guys so much. I'm really proud to be a part of RNA, and I love seeing you all, even virtually, at this conference every year. Thanks so much.
Our next contest is for excellence in religion reporting at large newspapers and wire services. Our third place winner is Yonat Shimron of the Religion News Service, for stories ranging from a foster agency that works only with Protestants to an evangelical effort to change gay lives through witness rather than conversion therapy. As the judges put it, quote, stories by Yonat Shimron are inevitably smart, sensitive, measured, and expertly rendered. She writes about her topics with both complexity and nuance, and in the process, helps us see all sides of an issue.
Thank you for this honor. RNA conferences have been such an important part of my professional career. For the past 23 years, I've attended each and every RNA conference, traveling to different cities and seeing some of my favorite people. I'll miss you all this year. I want to thank my editors, Bob Smetana, Paul O'Donnell, Roxanne Stone, and Mary Gladstone for trusting me to tell stories I think are important. And I want to also thank my RNS colleagues who make teamwork such a pleasure. See you all next year.
Second place goes to Michelle Borstein of the Washington Post for stories relating to sex abuse scandals in the Roman Catholic Church, including one about an archbishop who gave away $350,000 in church money to his friends, a story about the troubled legacy of the church official who investigated him, and yet another story about what it means to be removed and laicized by the Vatican. As the judges said, quote, this is reporting that makes a difference.
The other day, in response to me tweeting a story about accountability in the Catholic Church, I saw somebody tweet back, I should know never to read a Michelle Borstein story late at night, which was at first really upsetting to me because I want people to also feel uplifted and curious from stories that I write. But 2019 was just an amazing year for the Post's investment in accountability stories. and obviously in other news organizations. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for recognizing this work, and my colleagues Robert O'Hara and Sean Boberg, who worked on some of our stories about West Virginia. And I'm wearing my special Freedom of the Press t-shirt for everybody to just give you a big shout out, not to get discouraged or distracted in all this chaos, and just keep at it. Congratulations and thanks for the award.
First place in this contest goes to Elizabeth Dias of the New York Times for stories about the hidden lives of gay Catholic priests, how the Southern Baptist Convention handles sex abuse by its ministers, and about anti-abortion pregnancy centers that are challenging Planned Parenthood. In the judge's words, quote, "Each story is a master class in great religion writing." Our next prizes are for excellence in commentary. Third place goes to Celia Vig Wexler for work at the Baltimore Sun and San Francisco Chronicle that analyzed U.S. Catholic bishops when it comes to presidential elections, how the anti-abortion movement has adapted to the presidency of Donald Trump, and a critique of Pope Francis's handling of the child sexual abuse scandal in the Catholic Church. The judge praised her for, quote, "sharp, original analysis."
I deeply appreciate this award. To even be considered among this stellar group of journalists is an honor. I am a late bloomer in this profession, so the recognition of my peers is especially sweet. I want to thank my atheist husband, a recovering journalist, who often offered good edits and suggestions, some of which I even accepted. Thank you to RNA for sponsoring this competition and for hosting this event.
Second place goes to Simranjeet Singh for work done at Religion News Service. In the judge's words, Simran's columns make a vital contribution to the national dialogue on racism, allowing the reader to walk a bit in the shoes of a Sikh American living in modern America. He shares what it is like to have his daughter watch him get frisked by airport security agents. In another column, he examines why two academic colleagues question how he can teach about a religion not his own. He knows how to take a teachable moment and leave us all with a lesson.
Hi everyone, I'm Simranjeet Singh. Some of you call me Mr. Singh, some of you call me Dr. Singh, but I'm also missing you all at the conference this weekend. I wish we could all be there in person. Hopefully we can soon. But yeah, I'm just grateful for our community, really grateful for this recognition. It means a lot, especially given how talented and skilled so many of you are. So yeah, just grateful to be with you all, and especially grateful to the team at RNS for giving me a home, to Paul and Bob for making sure I don't embarrass myself with my writing. Yeah, it's been a lovely journey, and really grateful to be with you all. So thanks, and hopefully we get to be together soon. Bye.
Our first place winner is Heidi Hall for work done at Religion News Service in the Tennessean. I'm sad to say this award is being given posthumously. As the judges put it, quote, "This gifted writer describes how she left the faith of her youth and found another, and how her new community was there for her when she developed colorectal cancer. Then, in an unforgettable video talk before a live audience, she described with wit and humor all the indignities of living with a colostomy bag and facing mortality. It is a tragedy that this award must be given posthumously." Our next prizes are for news analysis. Third place goes to Julie Zausmer of the Washington Post for stories about accountability in clergy sex abuse cases, about the increasing number of Christmas movies on TV, and on the reactions of evangelicals to the president's language, including his occasional use of the word goddamn. On this story, the judges said, quote, "The writer explores this interesting question in the context of the Bible and modern-day sensibilities. It makes for a compelling, unique read." Second place goes to Sarah Pulliam Bailey of the Washington Post for stories scrutinizing religious exemption for vaccine inoculations, exploring the theology of the prosperity gospel, and a look at one religious magazine's challenge of the president's moral authority. In the judge's words, quote, a strong illuminating package of stories on 3 very different issues, all exploring the intersection of faith and policy. The writer scrupulously tackles each story, laying out both sides step by step to provide insight into some of the most polarizing, high-profile issues of the day. The stories are as provocative as they are informative. First place in this contest goes to Rachel Swarns of the New York Times for her stories on how in the early to mid-1800s, almost all orders of Catholic nuns in the United States owned and sold slaves, and for a story on a seminary's decision to pay reparations. The judges said, quote, both stories, unflinching in their look back at the past, provide context to help understand the troubling issues of today. Our next prizes are for our Enterprise contest, the Renner Award. Third place goes to Sarah Dullia of WFAE in Charlotte for her work on the clergy sex abuse scandal in the Roman Catholic Diocese of Charlotte, North Carolina, and its delay in producing a list of credibly accused priests. In the judge's words, quote, this 4-part entry's power was in its voices and simple structure. The voices of sexual assault survivors, attorneys, experts, and church members tell the who, what, why, when, and how of the list and its importance. The result is memorable.
I really appreciate this recognition. It means a lot, especially among such a really talented group of journalists. I wish we could all be together celebrating, but I did want to say a quick thank you to WFAE for believing in investigative journalism and giving me the time and space to do it. Thank you to Alex Olgin, who was the fact checker of the list. I wanted to say thank you to friends and family who were a sounding board for this project. And also thank you to the survivors who allowed me to interview them, to be vulnerable with me, and for telling their story on the sex abuse crisis within the Catholic Church. The space and just their genuine sincerity to tell their story is really what makes this kind of reporting possible. So thank you so much. It's an honor.
Second place goes to Robert Downen, John Tedesco, Lisa Olson, and John Shapley of the Houston Chronicle for their series on sex abuse in the Southern Baptist Church and for the database they created of former leaders in the church who have been convicted of sex crimes. The judges called it, quote, a well-conceived entry whose wealth of stats add texture to the devastating stories of preyed-upon teens, the rehiring of convicted abusers, and the denomination's continued foot-dragging. Top-shelf writing throughout. First place in this contest goes to Marjorie Miller of the Associated Press for work on the Catholic Church's sex abuse revelations in North America, Europe, and Asia, including the failures of diocese church review boards that are supposed to investigate allegations of abuse, and stories on damage to children involving nuns in India, bishops who lowball financial settlements, and a nonprofit organization supporting accused priests. A special mention goes out to reporters Juliet Linderman and Michael Rezendes and photographer Wang Mei for exceptional work. Our next award is for excellence in feature writing about religion, our Supple contest. Third place in this contest goes to Emma Green of The Atlantic for her stories on a movement of people who want to live more closely with others who share the same faith and values, and for a story on the conflicted future of Christians in the Middle East. In the judge's words, quote, at first glance, these works offer long, broad strokes, but then as you read them more closely, you'll discover fine details of excellent understanding of the craft. This is exemplary work.
Hi everyone, I am sorry to miss you all in person this year, but I am always cheered to know there are other religion reporters out there doing great work, and I am wishing you all well in these pandemic times.
Second place goes to Elizabeth Dias of the New York Times for stories on gay Catholic priests, a mother who lost faith in a megachurch, and on a look inside an evangelical anti-abortion program. In the judge's words, quote, what a delight to read. This package of feature writing pieces is truly a gift to readers. Very well done. First place in this contest goes to Ruth Graham for work done at Slate, for her stories on Cardinal Theodore McCarrick and on the book about a boy who died and went to heaven. The judge said that Graham's writing style is incredible. Quote, readers are taken on a journey of tenacious and thoughtful reporting with a no-rush fluidity of storytelling until the conclusion. Do not hurry. Take your coffee cup out onto the front porch or settle into your favorite chair and enjoy the ride. These stories are guaranteed to make your coffee grow cold from neglect. Excellent work.
Hi, RNA. Thank you so much. This is just a huge honor. I want to say thank you especially to my former editor at Slate, Laura Bennett, and also just to you. I wish we could all be there to celebrate in person this year, but until next year, thank you again. Bye-bye.
Our final contest is Religion Story of the Year, and this is the first year RNA has had this contest. Our third place winner is Paul Glatter of Religion Unplugged for his expose of a whistleblower's complaint on a $100 billion investment fund associated with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which raised questions over whether tithing funds were being used inappropriately. The judges noticed that Glatter's work was, quote, a jaw-dropping revelation that covered all the bases from the scoop to the context, but to the very crisp writing throughout.
My name is Paul Glatter. I serve as executive editor of Religion Unplugged. Thanks for these 2 awards for my reporting last December on a secretive investment fund called Ensign Peak Advisors, housed within the LDS Church nonprofit structure. This fund grew to $100 billion in value in the last 22 years by funneling LDS member tithes to the portfolio without their knowledge. The reporting focused on the story when other, larger news organizations didn't have time. Thankfully, the Washington Post also jumped on the story close to my publish date, and the resulting stories in Religion Unplugged and the Post generated hundreds of thousands of readers, 150 stories by other outlets, and the LDS Church had to acknowledge the reporting was accurate. EPA began disclosing its financial holdings for the first time to the Securities and Exchange Commission in D.C., and we believe more reform may come. On behalf of Religion Unplugged, a new outlet and member of RNA, we thank RNA for these awards and wish all the best to our friends at RNA.
Second place goes to the reporting and data teams of the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, which included 75 reporters from 17 news operations in 14 countries, including the Associated Press, the New York Times, NBC News, Le Monde, the BBC, the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, and the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. This team of reporters published and curated the operations manual for the mass detention camps of Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang province. The judges praised the team for, quote, dramatically increasing what the world knows about the mass internment of an ethnic religious minority, while exposing details of the Chinese government's plans of how the camps worked, and for just showing the severity of condition for the people there.
Hi, I'm Sheila Lecci, a reporter with the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists. I'm here today on behalf of ICIJ and 17 media partners who worked with us on the China cables investigation. More than 75 journalists from around the world worked on this project, which exposed China's repressive policy against the Uyghurs and other Muslim minorities. We are honored to receive this award and very grateful for the acknowledgement. Thank you so much from ICIJ and our partners.
First place in this category, Story of the Year, goes to the Houston Chronicle reporters Robert Downen, John Tedesco, Lisa Olson, and John Shapley for their piece headlined Abuse of Faith, 20 Years, 700 Victims. Southern Baptist Sexual Abuse Spreads as Leaders Resist Reforms. The judges praised the reporters for taking the church to task for not tracking pastors who had sexually abused minors, and for, quote, compiling and publishing a database of Southern Baptists with formal church roles who were convicted or took plea deals. The judges added, quote, on one hand, it is extremely disheartening that stories like this continue to appear. But on the other hand, it is testament to the importance of religion reporting and of journalism in general in society today. Well, that is our last award to be given out tonight. Once again, my congratulations to all of the winners.